Hi, welcome to this tutorial where we will see how to configure OS monitoring of KVM guests in Patrol for Linux game. To begin the configuration, select Linux as a monitoring solution, select the latest version, select Linux virtualization in the monitor profile field. In the monitor type field, you can either choose all or Linux virtualization monitor type. The all option will help you monitor the basic health of the guest virtual machines from the KVM host. No configuration is required here. If you select Linux virtualization, you can configure OS monitoring of the guest virtual machines that are discovered below the KVM host. For this demo, I'll select Linux virtualization and proceed with the configuration. I'll keep the default port number. In monitoring credentials, enter the common credentials to connect to the KVM guest. I'll enter Patrol as the username. You can either use password-based or key-based authentication depending upon your requirement. I'll use password-based authentication and enter the password. If you use key-based authentication, enter the required details. You can use the OS monitoring filter option to filter the guest virtual machines from OS monitoring. You can either include or exclude the guest virtual machines from monitoring. By default, all the guest virtual machines are included for monitoring. If you want to include specific guest virtual machines for monitoring, enter a comma-separated list of the guest virtual machines or enter a regular expression. I'll keep the default settings and include all the guest virtual machines for OS monitoring. In Guest VM OS monitoring configuration option, you can add specific configuration per guest virtual machine. Click Add. In the guest names field, enter the guest virtual machine name. A comma-separated list of multiple guest virtual machines can be provided here. I'll enter the guest VM name. Here, you can configure process, file system, and disk monitor types for the specified guest virtual machine. You can either add individual guests or a group of guest virtual machines for monitoring processes, disks, and file systems. In processes, none of the processes are monitored by default. In file systems, root, temp, user, and home file systems are monitored by default. In disks, all the disks are excluded by default. I'll keep the default settings and save the configuration. The configured guest virtual machine name appears here. Now I'll add another guest virtual machine. In this configuration, I'll monitor NFS apart from the default file systems. In disks, I'll include all SDA disks for monitoring and save the configuration. You can continue adding guest virtual machines for monitoring as per your requirements. I'll save the configuration. We can now see the instances in the TrueSight console. This is how you can configure OS monitoring of guest virtual machines in Patrol for Linux game. Thank you for watching this video.